What does it really take to walk away from a safe career, put everything on the line, and build companies, sometimes literally from the ground up, across continents and cultures? Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we explore the leaders driving transformation across industry, energy, and manufacturing. I'm your host, Dr. Leanne Aguilar, and today I'm joined by Lindsay Gorrill, CEO and Chairman of Star Gold Corp. With 3 decades of experience bringing companies from conception to market, Lindsay has built mines and manufacturing plants across India, Germany, Canada, and the United States, led companies from private to IPO, and raised over $1 billion in equity and debt across public and private markets. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's get started. Now, you were on track to become a partner at a major accounting firm when you made the decision to walk away and start your own company. What internal signal told you it was time to leave security behind and bet on yourself?
Well, I think I was, like I said, with a KPMG, about to become a partner in Canada, and all my clients were mining clients. So a lot of people don't understand how mining actually works, but a lot of these companies were looking for a resource, trying to put it in production. And I was 28 years old, going to 29, and I just thought that, I was good at accounting, but it wasn't exciting. It didn't excite me. And I was in a car accident, so I had time to basically sit and lay down, sit in bed for a few months and think about the rest of my life. And I thought that I could maybe step away from accounting and maybe start my own mining company. Most people thought I was crazy at the time. And I think 99% of the people thought I was crazy at the time, but I thought that I understood it well. And I think I thought I could do it better, basically.
Yeah. So that accident kind of put things in perspective and had you to really take a look at where you were at and what you wanted to spend your life doing.
Yeah, if I didn't have the accident, if I wasn't laying in bed, I was in a hospital in a bed thinking about everything, I probably wouldn't have done this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're working at a firm like that, you're working every day of the week, you're working hard, you're going hard, you're not really thinking about the next part of your life, you're just driving forward.
Right.
So that was a thing and point in time in my life that made me think, and then basically changed my whole life because of that.
Yeah, because entrepreneurship, I mean, that's no small feat. It's no small decision. You're exchanging security for passion, basically, and you're taking a risk and investing in yourself. And, that takes a lot to make that kind of decision.
Yeah, and the risk we took, it was a buddy of mine who's a partner, who was in the managing consulting side. We did it together, and all we had was $60,000. Put it together, and this is in 1989, 1990, and we picked up a deposit of garnet in Canada. And of course, we didn't know at the time that was 30 million tons of stuff that was worth zero. So it becomes even more stressful as you start going down the journey, right?
Right. Yeah, because early in that journey, I know you experienced that real failure and you discovered that your first product simply didn't work. So tell me more about that and how that moment reshaped your understanding of risk, resilience, and decision making.
Well, we had done a lot of work on the market study of industrial garnet, where it's used at, and where is it used in the world, how it's used, and who the competitors were. And we thought there's an opportunity to get into the market with this product out of Canada. But when we actually processed the product and brought it to the market, and I see bring it to the market, I mean in the back of my Bronco with a bunch of 5-gallon white pails all down the States, bring it to the market personally to show it. We realized pretty quickly that it didn't work. So it just didn't work. So our first investment to go get a product to market, which we spent almost all the $60,000 at the time, was basically worth zero. So it was pretty devastating. But during that whole thing, we had uncovered a mine in Idaho, United States, that had phenomenal product, but the owner was doing it the wrong way and was basically getting a cease and desist from the Corps of Engineers and the government to shut it down because it was basically ruining the environment. And so we zipped back to Canada and we got our wits together because we were pretty devastated on that first journey. And that was in February of 91. And then March 91, I drove to Idaho and met the owner of this mine. And then by July, I had a deal to buy it. And by October, I owned it. And it was difficult, but it was, again, I could have went back to accounting. So after the first failure, I could have easily went back to accounting, right? Mm-hmm. But I said, no, I think I can do this. We can do this. If we go down and we acquire this company in Idaho, and we're not off to the races, but at least we're moving forward. If that didn't happen, I probably would have been back. If that didn't happen.
Right. So it's like that first failure it really taught you a lot about, for one, what you needed to succeed. And then I'm hearing it even motivated you to push even further, faster. So it taught you a lot, I'm hearing.
Well, it taught even more, I think, because it proved to us, because we weren't miners, we weren't the guys, we didn't understand the mineral side, we're more financial side at the time, understood that we didn't do enough due diligence on it. We believed garnet was garnet, and that's not the case. Garnet hardness is the same, but structurally they're different. They grow differently, etc. So we did a poor job of due diligence on that product that we tried to bring to market. We would have done more work on it. We probably would have known right away not to do anything with it. So it taught us basically that we failed. We actually completely failed in our due diligence of what we're trying to bring to market.
Yeah. So it taught you the importance of really understanding your product and making sure that you knew what you were even selling or buying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, you said that working inside a large organization can sometimes feel riskier than leading your own venture. How do you define control of destiny, and why does it matter so much to entrepreneurs?
I think, first off, the most important thing is you got to believe in your vision, right? You got to believe in what you're doing. And I think that a lot of people who work in large organizations believe it's a safe haven to be in large organizations, but we hear about a lot of people getting laid off and getting down. If you have your own company, again, not all succeed, obviously, because it is difficult to grow. But if you have a clear vision and you can build a team around you that is that are really good, I think you're a lot safer driving your own business than in a large organization for yourself. First on your growth and also on your opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it gives you freedom, I think, too, to explore and to explore different directions and guide your destiny.
I think you have to have the drive to basically work every day of the week, because whether you're actually working or not, mentally you're always working. When it's your own company and your own drive and there's risks, etc., and you're trying to build something, you lay at night thinking about things. I have a notepad by my bed since I was 30, making notes about stuff. I wake up at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
that's part of it, right? And I think everybody has it in them, but I think a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, but they don't want to take that step because of the risk, right?
The fear. Yeah.
If you do your proper due diligence and you believe in yourself and you can see a clear path, it might not be the smoothest road as you grow, but you should do it, right? You should do it. You believe it.
Yeah. Well, because it's like that passion and that love and that, people talk about work-life balance, but I'm like, well, as an entrepreneur, and if it's something you really love, there's really not a separation, like you were saying. You'll be laying in bed thinking about it, and that's enjoyable. It's invigorating. It's like part of what makes your life fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly. And work-life balance it can be there because I coached hockey, I coached soccer, I did all that kind of stuff with my kids while I was building my company, because for me it was important that, because I worked so much, that when I wasn't working, I made sure I had spent time with my family, because I didn't go golfing all the time. I never golf because all my buddies golf, but if I had the time off, I want to spend it with my family. So I thought it was really important, because the amount of time how much I traveled, how much I worked, and when I was home and I wasn't doing something, you had to make sure you spent time with your family, because it's important to give that I don't know, help grow your kids, basically. I don't know how you say it properly, but you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You're investing in your kids and their future, and yeah.
I think you have to do both, right? I think it's also good because by doing that, it also relieves your stress. When I went and did all that stuff on the side, on the personal side, it gave me time to, even though people think coaching is stressful, in my mind, coaching kids was not stressful, because I was thinking about that and not thinking about my business. And it gave me time for clarity. So.
Yeah. And that is true. Because you need that rest and that time where you're not thinking about business to like refresh yourself and to gain clarity. You do need that break. And having those other activities create a natural space for that, I think.
Yeah, you have to have something to do that releases your mind around your business, because your business is 24 hours a day in your head. So you have to do something to get out of that. And mine was always sports. Mine was either doing it myself or doing it with my kids.
Yeah. Well, and sports are great anyway. Because it's like, it's your body, mind, spirit. It's like you're exerting energy, and that just lets you like refresh yourself, I guess, in multiple ways. It's
I play ice hockey 3 or 4 times a week. So because that for me, that's the best outlet for physical and mental, because you're 100% focused on the game itself
Yeah.
and exercising that. Yeah. So it's just a good thing. It's a good release for sure.
Yeah, a good way to, right, exert that energy and then reset. And then it just, right. Yeah. So you've built operations across multiple countries, including extended time in India. What was the biggest leadership lesson you learned about managing across cultures, hierarchies, and belief systems?
I would say the most difficult of it all was in India. And so this is an interesting story. This is how I think, which is crazy. So I'm in Texas. I have my mind in Idaho's going well. I'm selling product in North America, Korea, Japan, into Europe, and now things are going well. The first couple of years was a hard struggle. It wasn't easy, but we got through it all. Won a couple of national awards for restoration, which is nice, right? We basically re-cleaned up the area. And I was in Texas. I was meeting a customer, and he said, I got some garnet from India, but it has this black stuff in it. So I brought it back to Idaho and did an analysis in my lab of what was in there. And there's something called ilmenite and zircon, which is basically one was a titanium mineral. So that was 95, I think 94, 95. And that was in April or something like that. And I called him back up and said, where'd you buy it from? And called the guy in Los Angeles who bought it from a guy from what was called Madras, India. It's now Chennai. Flew to India a month later. Never been there in my life. And went and looked at the property where it was coming from. And I said, I think I should own this. I think I should go do this. So that was in late 94. And my first plant opened in 96 in India. So in 2 years. So, I mean, cultural. So think about India. Where I am in India, so I'm in the southern part of India, very rural. You've got caste systems. Mm-hmm. So, understand, caste is basically, and it's bad, right? You're a higher caste. A lower caste doesn't tell you, I mean, they're caste, right? So basic level of people is how is what it is, which is sad. And on top of that, you've got Christians, Hindu, and Muslims. So I've got 3 religions and a bunch of castes. And I have to basically mold that into an organization where we're all running together.
Right.
And it took a year for me to finally, I used to say, my company was called Transworld Garnet in India. And I used to say, finally, I spent a lot of time talking to everybody, talking to people at the mining site, talking to people at the mill, at the production plant site. And I said, once you come in within these walls, Transworld Garnet, we're all the same. Yeah. I'm the same, you're the same. It took a long time, but because I had a lot of hiccups. I mean, it was a disaster early on. People didn't want to work together. Someone who had a master of engineering that was lower caste, the higher caste didn't want to work for them. And so it took me a long time I had to let people go and change people. And by the time, it took me a year, but after a year, basically within my walls of my company, my thing, we're all the same. We're all working together. And I made sure all bonuses were based on the entire group working together. No single person could get a bonus unless everybody got the bonus.
Right. So you really shifted from individual incentives to team-based rewards to overcome that internal friction. And how did that change performance, and what did it reveal about human systems inside industrial operations?
I think it was interesting because you had to break down those biases, right? There's all those biases within a country. And I think it took time and discussions and really getting my leadership of my company, both on the mining side and the manufacturing side, to buy in first, get the leadership to buy in. Because some of the leaderships are different castes too, but I had to get them to buy in. And some guys wouldn't buy in, so I had to remove them and replace them, right? So to get them to buy in, here's we're all together. And it was amazing. I mean, the productivity went up 200-300% because people would actually sabotage at the beginning. People who are a higher caste would sabotage a production line because a lower caste guy was the boss, to blame them. So it was unbelievably bad. And again, this was rural India, right? This is not the cities. This is rural India. I'm sure it's a lot better now after 30 years or whatever. But for me, it was really hard eye opener because when I went in there, I saw this titanium deposit on surface that was unbelievably, you can make a lot of money on it. Right? A lot of hard work to get there. But I didn't understand any of the society of
the people part of it, right? The culture,
zero understanding of that. I knew what castes were, I knew what religion was, I knew all that, but it was hard. I was there. I was probably there 80% of my life for the first 2 years trying to get that going. So
right,
my family, young kids, right? I got a fantastic wife still after 36 years. But it was tough. But again, we can make this work. We got to work together. I got to bring the right team in, the right people. We all believe. And then after a year, it was smooth sailing.
So that total alignment, within the organization, and like you said, and just figuring out within that cultural and the variations of caste system, like how you could make it work. So I guess problem solving, and then ultimately trial and error to get it to work.
People always go, "Why are you stressed?" I go, I spent 8 years in India building a company. That was stressful because culturally, it's really, think about it. It's like when people look at other countries in the world, you don't really understand how people think unless you're there, right?
Right.
And even though I saw this unbelievable deposit in two states, unbelievable deposits, these things, if they're sitting back home, we'd have these things going. And that was fantastic. But what I miscalculated was the cultural differences of the people that I'm hiring. And I miscalculated that majorly.
Yeah.
And then I had to just basically dive in and really work to try to get them to take my energy and my vision and try to get the leaders to believe in it, then the next level to believe in it, and the whole team to believe it. And then again, inside our walls, I used to say, we're all the same. Yeah. We're all the same. We're one group. We move forward together.
Yeah. So. At a team level. I like that. Yeah. Now you've raised capital in vastly different environments and market cycles. What separates founders who successfully raise capital from those who struggle, even with strong assets?
I think that it's when you're going to look for capital, right? I mean, the people you're looking for capital, who are trying to get capital from, hear from a lot of different people, right? They have a lot of different pitches of people trying to get them to fund their businesses. And I think, from the very beginning of my mine I bought in Idaho, again, remember I had a deal to buy the mine in July. I had to give them $2.5 million by October, and I had no money. So I had to bring all that information back and put together a proper plan to pitch to investors at the same time as negotiating with the government to redo the environmental damage, to reclean it up, to give me a permit to mine. And I think that really taught me how to basically put together the right package. And it's all about, I think an investor looks at two things. They look at what they're invested in, the business itself, and then the people who are running the business. And if you can show them that you have the knowledge of the business, and this is the business, and there's a growth pattern, and why this will work, and here are the pitfalls, but we can get through them. At the same time, myself and the team around me, we can get this done, and why. I think that's important. So I think it's important that it's not always just the entrepreneur; it's the entrepreneur attracting the right team members. Right. And I'm a major team guy, team members to prove to the investor that we will be successful.
Yeah. Well,
and it's not easy.
Right. And I get that, though, because it's the team members who are actually doing the work and producing the outcomes for the investors. So I think that team does make a huge difference, knowing that there's the experience, the expertise, and the capabilities within that team. And
I think the team's so important because the team has to be two pieces. They have to all agree on the vision, which is the vision of what we're trying to do, but they also have to be independent enough that they can provide input if they believe the vision is moving in the wrong direction, right? Or the drive is in the wrong direction. Because what's really difficult for some companies that fail, I think, is that an entrepreneur is so strong, or I don't know what the word for it would be, is that no one will give advice because they're worried about the head is too strong, right? And I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think what's important is you want to attract people that are better at things than you are, and take as much of their advice as possible.
Yeah, right. So if the leader is too dominant of a personality, if they're not open to feedback, and if they are more directive instead of listening and asking for the input of others, then I guess that's what you're saying. It's a dangerous setup.
Yeah, and I've been there before. I've had people say, I go to people and say, how come you don't, why are you talking in the meetings, that kind of stuff? Well, people have said to me, well, you kind of scare me a little bit.
Intimidation, right? Intimidated.
So I don't know I'm doing that. Like I'm doing that. But obviously I was doing that somehow, right? So in my mind, I think I'm being more giving information. At the same time, people are worried. So it takes time for even your team to understand. And as long as it's good as a leader to understand that. So you can say to them, no, that's not why I said it that way. I was just trying to challenge your point of view. Even though
Right.
I actually agree with you. I even told this point one time, I said, I actually agreed with your point of view. I just wanted to ask you questions to see if you whether you really believe in your point of view. And then you basically stepped away from your point of view, even though I thought it was a good point of view. And then I asked them why. And they said, I don't know the word scared I can't remember the word they used, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
intimidated them basically to
Yeah.
get them off that point. When I wasn't trying to do that, all I was trying to do is to make sure they really believed in their point.
Right. I can completely relate with you. And I've had that, happen with me as well. I think it's sometimes just our position as leaders or the owners of the company is intimidating for others. And, it's like, okay, well, I don't see myself as scary, but I've had feedback that it's like, okay, well, people are afraid to approach you. It's like, okay, so how can I address that? How can I work? What can I do to change myself? Or how do I need to communicate better to encourage, feedback and communication instead of coming across? Because like you, I mean, definitely have my ideas. I definitely am going to give input, but at the same time, I don't want that squashing other people's sense of contribution or willingness to talk, and to contribute.
Yeah, and I think the problem is you might think, like I thought I was providing openness of discussion.
Yeah.
But some people thought that they were scared to say stuff.
Exactly.
So in my head, I think I'm presented a certain way. Yet other people's in their head, they're thinking look at me a different way. So it's also how you how you think other people basically what's the word for how people see you, right?
Yeah.
So I think people see me this way, but in those cases, they didn't see me the way I thought they saw me. They saw me more of a authoritarian kind of.
Exactly. I know, and I've come across that as well. It's like I'm thinking, oh, I'm a servant leader. Or I'm thinking that I'm, being open and to feedback and receptive. Yet they're thinking that, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to bother you, or I'm not going to say anything because she said this and I don't want to challenge her. When I'm, I do my best to reinforce that you're never bothering me. Please come to me, talk to me. I'm here. And, I might tell you my experience and challenge you, like you said, because I do have a different experience set. However, I do want to know your thoughts and your experience and your feelings. And, so yeah, it's interesting.
It's pretty interesting because again, you think you're doing that. You think you're allowing people, but at the same time, they're looking at you and they're not doing it. So it's a process. Life is a process, right?
Yeah.
Every time you do something or especially as an entrepreneur, and I've gone through different businesses, obviously, mainly in the mining sector, but different minerals. But every time it's not always the same team because it's different parts of the world. You're starting all over again. But
Right.
what you've learned from the earlier as you go across, you bring that with you, which makes it easier the next time, I believe, because you've already kind of had a lot. You got to learn from your pitfalls, right? You can't. You got to, if you don't learn from your pitfalls, like you said, only doing it once is fine, but don't do it twice.
Yeah. Like on once it's on you, twice it's on me, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
No. So when you're entering a new country or market, what do you assess first? The resources, the regulatory environment, or the people, and why?
I think the people side came a little bit later. I think the first thing is on the mining side, on the resource side, is the resource first. So it's basically a geological review of the resource. Is the resource real? Then the next really biggest thing on that is market, right? So you got to do some early due diligence. Early due diligence is basically, is the resource there? So is there enough of what you're looking for there? For example, like in Canada, I built what's called a fluorspar mine. Now, no one in the world knows what fluorspar is, but fluorspar is in almost everything you do in your life because it's fluorine, right? It's the fluorine that comes out of it. So even lithium batteries have fluorine in it. So I built a fluorspar mine. So the first thing I did was I looked at the geology side. Then I looked at the process side. Okay, so I have a lump of fluorspar, but it doesn't mean you can make it into anything. So I have to then do some work on making it into something, and then I do a market study. Okay, so if I have it, I can make it at this cost. Can I sell it? Once I understand that part, then more of the regulatory authority stuff, look at that. Now again, there's some places, if you're in a mining sector and you're in certain places of the world, you just wouldn't go because it's either too dangerous or whatever.
Right.
So there's some places you just don't go, period. But knowing that it's a good jurisdiction, so let's assume you understand it ahead of time, it's a good jurisdiction, do all that other stuff, and then you kind of look at the people, how do you bring the people in? Is it a very rural area? But it's kind of a step by step. You really got to make sure that before you spend a lot of money, that it's there, you can process it, and you can sell it. That's the most important thing. And then the rest of it, you've done your due diligence a little bit on the people, of course, and on the jurisdiction. And you're going to be okay, sort of. You don't know 100%, but the first part is the first part. You got to make sure you have it doesn't matter what you're selling in the world, whether it's a mineral or a widget or whatever. You got to make sure you have a market for that product, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've heard that a lot too, right? Before you go in and invest a lot, you want to make sure you've got the market and that it makes sense ultimately financially.
We'll go back to my first point, my very first business. We failed miserably on the product due diligence and the market it was used for, because the product we made looked fantastic, but it wasn't good enough for the market we're going in. So that was a failure on that part, right? So that's why now, whatever I do that part so early before I spend any more money, because if you don't understand that, and that doesn't work, that doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how good you are, no one wants it, that means it fails. So.
Yeah. You held a gold asset for over a decade before bringing it toward production. How do you decide when patience is strategic and when waiting becomes a liability?
It's a good question, because to hold anything costs money, right? And it was basically the collapse of the financial markets in 2009, 2010, when the mortgage thing blew up. At that time, I traveled all over the world. So I've been all over the world, and I've seen the debt that all countries have debt. Not just America, all countries have debt. And in 2010, I saw the collapse of the financial crisis there. And I said, there's got to be some value in holding gold and silver. And I own gold and silver, but because I've built mines, I said, why don't I try to find a deposit that I could put into production? And so in 2012, around 2011, 12, 13, we looked for a property that we believe we could put in production. That was the one we found in Nevada called Long Street, that I put into my company called Star Gold Corp. So again, go back to my first synopsis. We did the work. Once I owned the property, I did the work on the geology. So I proved that there's enough gold and silver there that I can produce. I did the work on the met work to make sure I can produce it. So good. So now I know I got the resource, I can produce it. And my belief was gold and silver prices were going to go up in that period of time. Well, they never did, right? So every year, as I moved through the track of owning this property, I mentally said, me and my two partners in it, talked every year, because we had to spend money every year to hold in good standing. And it cost a lot of money. And, every year you're writing a check, and it's worse than gambling. You may never get back. It's either zero or something. There's no percentages. You either write the check and you don't go to production, you get zero back, right? So we believe, based on the world economy, what's going on, gold and silver has to go up. It has to go up, just because of excess. People want to hold some value in something other than a paper currency, which is what a Bitcoin is too, right? Yeah. So people are buying Bitcoins, not because they understand Bitcoin, but they want something else than a paper currency, which is what gold and silver is. So every year we did that. And now obviously it's luck, right? In some respects, we did know that gold and silver would go up, but now all of a sudden gold and silver is driven up quite high. And this makes this property that I own in Nevada very, very lucrative.
Right.
But again, it's going to be, when I go into production, it'll be, people say that's an overnight success that took me 14 years to get.
And that's usually how overnight successes are, I think, from what I've learned.
And it's really stressful, because you're spending money. You may never get it back. That's why I go to Vegas 4 times a year to watch hockey down there. And I never gamble, because my life has always been a gamble. My business is a gamble. Because you got to believe in yourself. So what we did there, we knew we had an asset that had very huge value as long as gold and silver prices went up. And I just wanted gold to go to $2,500 an ounce. At over 4,000 an ounce, it's more than valuable. It's ultra valuable now, kind of.
Yeah.
So now it's laser. So all the work we did in the past through the geology, metallurgical, and then we did all the environmental studies, cultural studies to make sure there's nothing there. So we did all the studies that now allows us to move forward to permit.
Right. Yeah. So you're just waiting for that timing. And you, like you said, you took that huge risk, huge gamble, and now it's paying off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's pretty exciting. It's really exciting now. Like I can't believe gold's over 4,000.
I know, it's super exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
Commodity businesses are highly exposed to forces outside a leader's control. How do you build conviction and discipline when markets, governments, and public sentiment are constantly shifting?
I'm going to go back. So let's go, because every mineral is different, right? You've got things like copper, nickel, gold, silver have a price set that's on the market, right? That's one side of the mining business. And the other side is basically oblique, I guess, because fluorspar, titanium, garnet, those are deals on contract with an actual customer. So there's no global price for those type of commodities, right? So you have two different types of commodities. One that has a price globally that's traded as a price. Mm-hmm. So that again fluctuates greatly and you have no control over it. And the other side is commodity industrial minerals, which is basically market driven. So both of them have very movement of price. I would say that on the opaque one, that's more a market demand driven one. So I think that in the industrial mineral side, I'm negotiating with like a DuPont or Honeywell on a contract. So I'm negotiating on a long-term contract. Now they're taking a risk and I'm taking a risk that prices don't go up or down. But at the price we set it at, we both know we can make money. So we have a contract and we said, and I've written contracts where a month later, I waited a month, I would have got more money, but I don't break the contract because I have a long-term customer. I'm going to supply them. I'm still making money and that side. On the other side, when it comes to gold, silver, things like that, even though there's demand for things like that you have less control over that side of the market than you have over the I call the opaque industrial mineral market. Because that's actually an actual user that needs your product to make a product.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah.
So your question was, how do you get around all that? I think the key is, again, different markets, right? Gold, silver is different than fluorspar, titanium. So on the titanium, fluorspar side of the business, garnet, it's all about who your customer is, what their demand is, what they need it for, and that you know that based on your cost of production, you can make money on selling into that marketplace, even if it moves a little bit, because the demand in that marketplace continues to grow. And as long as you don't have a competitor come in, like from China or somewhere else, which is also another risk, comes in with a product that's as good as yours and lower cost that floods the market, which has happened, right? That's how you get destroyed in an opaque market.
Yeah.
That's how you get destroyed. So if China, and it really is, there's not just China, but China's the big one, right? That will bring a product in the market and the government will basically subsidize to get it into the market, control the market, get the other people out of the market, and then they bring the prices back up again, right?
So just eliminating the competition, basically and strategically, so then they can come in and dominate and raise the prices. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's dangerous on the opaque side. And on the biggest side, nickel, copper, less that. But again, that's how you're driven by just global market trends.
Yeah.
The thing you don't sleep. Another thing you sit in bed, not sleep, think about.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay. Like you said, it's a game, right? It's a big game. So it's
a game. Yeah.
You've worked across mining, energy storage, and battery technology. What do most people misunderstand about the relationship between mining, manufacturing, and the technologies powering the future?
I think the saddest thing is that when people think of mining, they think of the turn of the century mining when guys are underground. They got the coal lungs, they got the dust and all that kind of stuff. And that's all gone. Like maybe in some of the countries in Africa, Southeast Asia, maybe that's different. But in the West, that's completely gone. So I'll give you an example. So with my fluorspar mine in Newfoundland, Canada, right? I have digging up the rock and all that kind of stuff. And I have basically it's almost like a wrap around my entire property. The amount of dirty water that flows off my property has less dirt in it than what you would have hosing your driveway off during the winter, right?
Really?
The things that we come under scrutiny is so difficult, and that's why it's difficult to bring a mine in production. So the environmental controls over a mine in the West is so strong. So that's why it makes it harder for you to go into production, of course. But once you go into production, environmentally, you're not hurting anything anymore, really. And I think the difficult thing in today's world is people still think about the turn of the century, the super funds, the dumping, and that doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't anymore. And that's the biggest hurdle to when you talk to just people that don't know mining, because no one knows what mining is really.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So what about like copper mining? Because I mean, I'm from Arizona and we had copper mines, all over, and they were these huge pits in the ground, right? So, I mean, have processes changed like across, all metals?
Well, I think if you have an open pit copper mine, that's an open pit, right? That's what it is. So when the mine closes, I guess a lot of times you end up with a lake, right? And houses.
Yeah, a big pit and a lake at the bottom.
When the mine closes, you basically fill the pit up. You have a lake with a bunch of houses around it, right? Let me go back to what I said. You're still digging something out of the ground, so it's still going to be, if it's not underground, there'll be a hole, right? The hole if the deposit is big, it's bigger. When the mine, so that maybe people don't like that side of it. But when the mining's going on, there's nothing environmentally or safety damage going on at the time, like air quality, stuff like that. But if there's copper and it's an open pit, that's a big pit, right?
It's a big pit. There are big pits everywhere.
At the end of the day, usually when it closes now, it becomes a lake with houses, usually. That's usually what happens. But I think what people don't understand is that your entire life, you need metal, right? Everything you do in your world, you need metals, and it comes from the ground. And so people are against mining, say, in the West. But if you don't do it in the West properly, and you let it down in, say, I'm using Africa because Africa has probably the worst environmental safety mines in the world that a lot of the Chinese companies are invested in, right? So would you rather have that? So it's catch-22, right? What do? We need the metal to run the world. We need the metal somehow. Yeah. Whether it's industrial minerals or metals or whatever, it's got to come from somewhere. Would you rather it come from somewhere that's done properly or somewhere that's not done properly?
Absolutely.
Die. So it's, again, not everybody will say mining's good. I understand that. I think it has the most negative connotations out of probably any type of industry just because of the history of mining, right? But I think people should understand that when the mines that are going on in the West, what we go under environmentally, safety environmentally is so tight on us that they know at least we're doing it properly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You might not like the hole itself, you might not like the hole, but we're doing it properly.
But the least impact and like you said, that I mean, there's a lot of responsibility behind that, and a lot of regulation, and so you're not facing. It's not the same as it used to be at the turn of the century.
And that's why a lot of the large mining companies in the world that are not based in America are mining in other countries because they don't want to mine it in the West because they don't have to go under those extrinsic environmental and safety regulations, which is bad. So if you ever Google, there's deaths in mining all the time. Not in the West, like maybe once some weird thing happens, but in different parts of the world because there's no environmental or safety standards.
Right.
And so I'm a big believer on if you're having global markets, the entire global market should be under one system of. It'll probably never happen. Right. But not in my lifetime. Well, I'm in my 60s now, so I guess not. But anyway, so in my lifetime. But I think that if you could get to a point where the World Bank or the World Organization or the United Nations could actually come to an agreement that the entire world economy has to run under the same environmental and safety standards, that'd be unbelievable for the world and for the safety of the people of the world.
Yeah.
But I doubt it. What's going on in the world today? I doubt it.
Yeah. But ideally, right.
I'm an idealist, so that'd be great to do that, right? So,
yeah. Now, you've faced extreme situations from geopolitical instability to life-threatening moments in the field. How do these experiences permanently change the way you assess risk as a leader? Now, you've told me some stories, and I understand that you've gone through a lot.
My best one because it's kind of a funny story and hard story. It was one of my Indian stories. I was leaving my house here in Idaho with my video camera, and my wife always says, "Don't take the video camera; you're going to lose it." And I go, "No, I'm not going to lose the video camera." So I had my geologist in India looking for other titanium deposits, zircon, et cetera, garnet deposits. And they had found one in the southern part of India on the coast. So I went in there with my managing director, a couple of my geologists, and a driver. And we drove to all these different parts. But there's one part I walked through the bush. I'm on this hill and I'm videotaping the property they're talking about. And down below, there's these 6 boats being loaded and unloaded. Don't know what's going on down there. But all of a sudden, my managing director yells at me, Mr. Lindsay, the Goondas are coming. The Goondas means thugs, basically, are coming. I go, what are you talking about? I look down, and these guys are running up the hill with machetes.
Oh, no.
And I'm going, what's going on? I go, I think they want your camera. I go, why do they want my camera? I don't know. We should go, Mr. Lindsay. So we start running through the shrub, and I'm trying to get, the old cameras that have the thing opens like this? And I'm thinking, I'm going to get the tape out and put it down my pants. I want my tape because I've been traveling around India videotaping this property. And I don't have a copy. So I couldn't get it out because you're running. And all of a sudden we're surrounded by these guys and they're screaming in Tamil, screaming. And they keep saying to me, you got to give me your camera. And my head's going, if I give my camera, my wife's going to be pissed at me. My head's going to be in trouble. And there's like 8 guys screaming machete. All of a sudden, one guy hit my managing director and one guy hit me with like a pipe across my shoulder. I went down on a knee, thought I broke my shoulder. And I go, okay, so I gave my camera. First thing I did was open it up to see if the tape was in there. Thank God I didn't put it down my pants. Then more yelling and screaming. A couple more hit. They hit a couple of our geologists, took him out, hit him pretty hard, and then he left. And I go, what was that? They go, that was the Tamil Tigers. We either videotaped them unloading and loading guns or drugs.
Oh, no.
And the only reason we're not dead is because you, Miss Lindsay, were here. If you weren't here, if we're all Indians, they would have killed us all. We get out of the bush. My driver was almost dead on the ground. They took our Jeep. They'd taken our Jeep away. We got the driver to the hospital. He lived, but didn't turn out very good. I got home. I told my wife I lost the camera. I didn't tell her that story for 6 years.
Wow.
I wanted to go back to India.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I just didn't go to that part of it. That was a comedy and also a thriller kind of part. But there's been a lot of weird spots. I was in Sri Lanka, same with the Tamil Tigers. I was meeting the finance minister. And then a month later, at the exact same spot, a suicide bomber blew up the finance minister and a few other people. And I was talking to the guy in the exact same spot a month ago. So at least at that point, I decided I'm not going to do business in Sri Lanka. I'm just going to stay in India.
Yeah. Right. So,
but those are things that part of life, it could be my last day of my life, right?
Right.
I still went back though. I
still went back, but just made you think about where you were doing.
Next time when they say, Mr. Lindsay, don't go there, I won't go there.
Yeah, exactly. So many people talk about taking risks, but few truly understand what sustained risk looks like. What's the difference between reckless risk and disciplined risk taking?
I think me videotaping was reckless risk, right? I should have listened to my people around me, but I was so focused on getting video of all the land. Anyways, that's reckless risk. Clearly, that's reckless risk. I think the other risk was, you called it what do you call it? What risk? Sorry.
Oh, disciplined risk taking.
Yeah. So I think disciplined risk is what we talked about at the very beginning. Everything in life is a risk. Whatever you do is a risk, right? And whatever you do, you can always go back and change it, hopefully, but whatever you do affects what you're going to do next. So I think disciplined risk is all about understanding in what road you're moving down and what path you're moving down, how you're going to get there. And then understanding that that's the wrong road or you're off a little bit to basically revamp that plan and go this way. And I think that's the type of risk that you can manage. And again, you find the pitfalls happen, of course, but you got to basically always never believe everything you say all the time, right? You're not always right. The people around you have ideas. Make a decision. Understand as quickly as you can when you made the wrong decision. Hopefully. If you make it too late, then obviously that's a big problem. And make the decision and come back and revamp that. And that's more of what you call your kind of your organized or your independent risk or whatever.
Yeah, right. So it's realigning, learning from your mistakes, and being educated about, something before you go into it, and then constantly adjusting and then not repeating the same mistakes twice.
Hopefully you don't. Obviously you do sometimes, but and I think it's, again, if you do I always call it due diligence. If you do your due diligence right, you understand what doesn't matter what business you're in. You understand your product, your market, the people, the people that are going to be around you to work, all that stuff properly, and you put that plan together and you go forward, you'll be successful. It won't be clear line successful, but you'll be successful with hiccups on the road that you've got to step back, analyze it, change it, and go forward again.
Yeah. You've said belief in oneself is essential, but so is not overextending. How should founders balance ambition with financial and operational restraint?
I think, and it's a difficult thing, because when you get a vision, sometimes you do have the blinders on, right? And you're going full speed ahead. And I think the key is that as long as you have the team around you, because no one can do anything by themselves. As long as if you groomed a team around you that understand parts of the business better than you, and you really will listen to their point of view, I think that will get you on a lot. That will remove a lot of down the road pitfalls that you would have had if you didn't do that. And it's difficult sometimes because everybody has egos, right?
Yeah,
egos, and no one wants to be wrong. But I would say my ego was bigger when I was in my late 20s and 30s, early on in my business, because I was young and I could do everything. And as I started building a business and made these mistakes, I realized that's not the case. I'm not that smart, right? I'm not that smart, but I'm pretty good at attracting good people to help make it happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the ego, I know it's there for protection ultimately, but it can quickly, sabotage efforts, and it's gaining that awareness, I think. And I think wisdom over time. It's like as we age or get more experience, we start to keep our ego or put our ego in check more so.
Yeah, I think it's important. I'm a driver. I want to win, right? I want to win, obviously, whether I'm playing sports or whatever. But if I lose, I'm not upset. It doesn't destroy me to lose. Uh-huh. So you want to have a winning atmosphere, winning attitude. But again, you have to be able to step back and know when you're not winning.
Yeah.
Which means when you're not making your targets, and step back and say, okay, this is not even if we want to win, we're not winning. How do we step back and fix that? Because you gotta, like I said, there's many times in my life that I've almost lost all my money, right? India was one of the biggest things that was the biggest risk, and I almost lost everything, right? At one point in time. And it was just, that's a longer story, but thank God I didn't have that much debt. And thank God I worked hard. I basically left my home. I didn't see my kids for 6 months. I just focused on getting this business running. But that was a risk. That was a personal risk I took with my wife. Talked to her, said, if I don't go do this, we're losing everything, right? And I got to go do this. And some people maybe would just follow that, just say, we're done, we're gone, right? We're going to close her down. But I knew we could get it going, and we did. 6 months later, things are going great, and that. But again, I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to spend 6 months full time, figure this thing out, get this thing going. I believe in this. People around me believed in it. My wife believed in it, obviously, and she was a big part of this because she didn't believe in it. It'd be difficult to take off for 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's good to have not just people around you in business that support you, but having people in your personal life support you too is a huge benefit of how you become something, right? Really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because there's a level of sacrifice that's involved, especially, you had to sacrifice family life for those 6 months. So having that support, I think, is vital. Yeah, crucial. Yeah.
And I said, look, here's the thing. I think I get this returned over in 6 months. If I don't do it, if I don't go now, we're gonna go bankrupt. If I'm not successful in 6 months, we're bankrupt.
Yeah.
Trust me, I think I can get this done. And again, that's another whole that's a business model story. I can tell you, that'll take me 3 hours. But anyway, but again, having support in the personal life, having people around me in the business life that helped me do that. It took a company that was going bankrupt to a lucrative company, basically.
Yeah, right. So. Well, Lindsay, finally, for the next generation of entrepreneurs, operators, and industrial leaders listening today, what is the one principle you believe determines who endures and who fades out?
I think it comes down to believe in yourself, but make sure you do the work to make sure what you believe is really true. And don't just disparage other people's opinions because they don't line up with your opinion. Make sure you take other people's opinion. If they have an opinion that's different than yours, even though you might not think it's right, take time to look into that to make sure it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pitfall of entrepreneurs, because usually they're drivers and ego guys and that kind of stuff, like I was when I was young, right? And I think that if you do that, you'll be even more successful and really sell your vision to people. Sell your vision to people.
Yeah. Well, Lindsay, thank you for sharing your extraordinary journey and for bringing such a candid, grounded perspective on leadership, risk, and global execution. For listeners who want to learn more about your work and follow you, where can they find out more?
They can just go to my website of my company, www.stargoldcorp.com, and they can actually send me an email through that.
Excellent. And for those listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with a colleague and tune in for our next conversation. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.